Hi guys, welcome back to Chasing Cases with Maddie, of course. This week I am bringing to you a case that has always sat with me. I know I say that a lot, but there are so many cases that have just truly sat with me over the years that I feel a calling to cover them. And today is definitely one of those cases. Before I get too into it, let's get into it. Let's go chase some cases. Today we are going to be covering the case of Jessica Heeringa. Jessica was a 25-year-old mom working to make ends meet, trying to make a better life for her and her children. She worked at Exxon gas station in North Shores, Michigan. And in April of 2013, she went to work and never came home. Now let's get into the background information. Jessica went into the station to work her late night shift just as normal. The store was discovered unattended later that night. Drops of blood were also discovered at the scene once the police arrived to investigate why the store was left unattended. The drops of blood were traced back to Jessica. And pieces of a firearm were also discovered near the scene. So the police were just walking into a really weird situation, a tangled mess. So let's get into it. Now, let's get into a timeline. I don't want to get anything wrong, so I am just going to read it directly, okay? April 25th, a regular customer had seen Jessica frequently working the late shift alone, often commenting on the fact she shouldn't be there by herself. She noted an interaction with a male customer stating that she has customers looking out for her, which the regular claimed sent a chill up Jessica's back, stating Jessica wasn't like her normal happy self. On April 26th, at 10:55 p.m., the last transaction was processed through her register, a cigarette lighter. At 11 p.m., an Exxon manager drove past, spotting a man acting in a suspicious manner. They noticed he repeatedly opened and closed the trunk of his silver minivan. At 11:02 to 11:05 p.m., a silver minivan, a Chrysler Town & Country, matching the manager's description, was caught on the surveillance cameras of three businesses speeding away from the station. At 11:10 p.m., a man pulled into the station attempting to purchase gas. Being unable to locate an employee, he called the police. At 11:25 p.m., the police arrived at the station and began investigating. So now let's get into the police's investigation. The police soon ruled out robbery, considering that Jessica still had a large amount of cash on her. Her purse was still with her. She had all of her belongings, and the cash in the register hadn't been touched either. Over the next 3.5 years after she went missing, a 75-member task force was established. They provided over 12,000 man-hours to help in the search for Jessica, and to this day, her remains have never been found. Now, let's get into the suspect. Jeffrey Willis, who is a man who has previous charges out of Muskegon County, his coworkers stated that he was supposed to work on April 26th, but he failed to show up for his shift and all the shifts that were scheduled that week after the 26th. After a search warrant was issued, the police discovered a folder on his computer labeled Vicks with photos in it, and Jessica was included in those photos. He was charged with the kidnapping and murder of Jessica. He received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Willis's cousin, Kevin Blum, is also included in this. He was a former prison guard, CO type deal, and he was giving information to the cops that wasn't available to the public yet. So clearly you have involvement that you haven't discussed currently. He also received a sentence much less than the life without, but he received 5 years probation with GPS tether. Now let's get into the aftermath. Jessica's Law was introduced, requiring gas stations open between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. to install and maintain security cameras to protect employees, specifically female employees. The lack of cameras really harmed this investigation and slowed law enforcement down completely. Jessica's case has received media attention. Her case has appeared on the series Disappeared and a limited series Unsolved Mysteries. With that being said, that is the end of this week's video. Honestly, this one has sat with me so long because it's just, it's so just eerie because she wasn't doing anything wrong. She was just going to work. She worked the late shift because that's what fit better with her schedule. It's like she was just a woman in America and that's why she had to die. So with that being said, that's the end of this week's video. It still sits heavy on my heart. I send all my love to the Heeringa family, Jessica's children, that I could not imagine losing my mom in that way. Anywho, I'm gonna get out of here. That's the end of this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's Chasing Cases. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys next week for a vlog. Bye!